in-depth discussions of the harsh realities of war. On the Brink podcast with Philip Ingram.
So what do we know about the new Russian missile, the Orshnik, which was used to attack the Ukrainian city of Dnipro last week? Well, we know it is a intermediate range ballistic missile with a range of between 3,500 and 5,500 kilometers. We understand it carries up to 6 warheads, which can be independently deployed. And we know that it can carry either a nuclear or a conventional payload. We certainly know that the payload that it carried last week was a conventional payload. We also know that this is something which travels up to 11 times the speed of sound. It is what we call a hypersonic missile, which makes it very, very difficult to intercept and shoot down, but not importantly impossible, as Putin would claim. The Ukrainians have shot down hypersonic missiles in the past, and already I would wager that the Ukrainian teams manning, among others, the Patriot batteries and the Ukrainian Air Force, who have monitored this coming in, will have learned lessons. We also can be fairly certain that Russia will currently have very, very few of these missiles, although Putin has vowed to produce them in great numbers, given the perilous state that the Russian economy is in. One might doubt about his ability to do that. So, more importantly, why did Putin fire this missile, and how should the West react? Well, it seems pretty clear that this was a response to the Ukrainians being given permission to use the American ATACMS and later Britain's Storm Shadow cruise missile to hit certain military targets inside Russia, although the Ukrainians have, it would seem, been confined to the Kursk region at the moment. So those handcuffs, I've got to say, have not yet been fully taken off. We should remind ourselves of, Putin during the week has signed out a new law lowering the threshold of Russia's nuclear doctrine. This seems to me to be bluff and bluster. Remember, Putin illegally annexed Crimea, which he said would be forever Russia, back in 2014. Ukraine has fired missiles and carried out military operations in Crimea almost since the start of this further invasion. And there are the four oblasts of Luhansk, Donetsk, Kherson and Zaporizhzhia, which Putin annexed and said would be forever Russia, although Ukraine still holds parts of these oblasts, and Ukraine is obviously carrying out military activity in these oblasts and firing missiles into them. So I think this holds Putin's credibility below the waterline, right? The guy is a bully and he does not mean what he says. A Ukrainian friend told me recently, a senior diplomat, that they had counted over 125 times that Putin has rattled the nuclear saber since February 2022, when this full-scale invasion started. And almost every time it has caused caution and nervousness in the West, what we call escalation management. If we learn one thing in how we react to this, is that escalation management fundamentally has failed. So how should we in the West react to this, and how should our leaders react to it? Well, I believe we should react to it by doubling down on what we give Ukraine. We should now give Ukraine every single weapon they need that we are capable of supplying, in particular Storm Shadow, French Scalp and American ATACMS ammunition. I also believe we should take off these ridiculous restrictions which restrict the Ukrainians to only firing at targets in the Kursk region. How ridiculous is it that Vladimir Putin, who for 3 years has invaded Ukraine and sends precision missiles almost daily to hit civilian targets in Ukraine, and some of those missiles supplied by other countries such as North Korea and Iran, How ridiculous is it, and what does it tell us of the credibility and the moral fibre of Vladimir Putin and those around him, that he finds it hard to accept Ukraine doing anything similar to Russia? It is time to take the gloves off with Vladimir Putin. It is time the West put the boot in. Russia is weaker than Putin would have us believe.